I moved into my little brick bungalow about 3 weeks ago. I was excited. I needed a fresh start after losing my last job. The quiet town felt like a peaceful escape from the city. Everything went smoothly at first. I set up my workspace and filled my home with my things. Felt normal. But then a shift happened. One night I sat down to draw. My pencil scratched the paper, breaking the silence. Then I heard a soft thudding from the attic. It was rhythmic, like someone was walking back and forth. At first I thought it was just the house settling. But it kept going, and my heart raced. I shrugged it off and tried to focus on my sketch. Days went by, and the thumping never stopped. The drafts felt colder, too. One evening, I thought I saw a dark shape zip past my window. I jumped up and peered outside, but saw nothing. Just my empty lawn and the trees swaying in the wind. I told myself I was imagining things. Then things got stranger. I found toys scattered around the house. One morning, a small teddy bear was sitting on my kitchen counter. I stared at it, confused. I didn't have any neighbors with kids. A few days later, a toy truck appeared in my living room. I shivered. Had I forgotten buying these things? I didn't know. I decided to explore a bit. The attic door was unlocked but stiff. I hesitated. What would I find? The thumping grew louder, more demanding. I touched the doorknob. It felt cold against my hand. I took a deep breath and pushed the door open. Inside, the attic was dim. Something shifted in the corner. I squinted, trying to see. Then I heard a soft giggle like a whisper. A chill raced through my body. I wanted to run but couldn't move. The shadow shifted again. I took a shaky step back. That's when I felt something brush against me. My skin prickled with fear. I stumbled down the stairs, my heart racing. I slammed the door shut and leaned against it, trying to catch my breath. I thought it would end there, but it didn't. That night, I lay in bed wide awake. I felt a presence in the room. The thumping from above started again. It was louder now, almost calling to me. I felt I had to go back upstairs. I was scared but curious. I climbed the stairs again, taking each step slowly. The attic door creaked as I opened it. The dim light revealed the cluttered space. I called out softly, "Hello!" My voice echoed back, empty and hollow. I listened carefully. The giggle was back, but it was different now, taunting. My heart raced faster. I searched the room with my eyes. Nothing seemed different, just shadows and dust. I wanted to leave, but my feet felt glued to the floor. Suddenly, something brushed against my leg. I jumped and turned around. I couldn't see anything, but I felt the air shift. The thumping became frantic now, echoing in my ears. Couldn't breathe. I stumbled backward, knocking into a pile of boxes before finally bolting toward the door. I slammed it behind me, panting and shaking. It wasn't over. I could still hear the laughter in my mind, echoing like a nightmare that wouldn't end. I had invited something I couldn't understand into my home, and I didn't know how to make it go away. The next morning, I woke up with a pounding headache. The laughter from the night before still echoed in my mind, but I decided to push it aside. I needed to regain some normalcy in my life. I made coffee and forced myself to take a shower. The hot water helped clear my head a little. After breakfast, I decided to run some errands. Maybe I needed a distraction. As I drove around town, I tried to shake off the fear gnawing at me. But the shadows of the attic lurked at the edges of my thoughts. I stopped at the local grocery store and struck up a conversation with the cashier, hoping for a sense of normalcy and connection. "Nice to have new faces in town," she said. "Where were you from?" As I told her about moving here, I noticed her expression change. People say this area has its share of spirits. I gave a nervous laugh. "Spirits? Like ghosts?" She smiled, but her eyes were serious. "Yeah, some people claim to hear children laughing at night in the old houses. Don't worry, though. Most of them are friendly." I felt a cold chill run down my spine. I thanked her and left the store, feeling a weight settle on my shoulders. Who were these children? What did they want from me? When I returned home, I was determined not to let my imagination run wild. I sat down in my living room and tried to sketch, but my pencil wouldn't move. Instead, I kept glancing at the attic door, waiting for the thumping to start again. When the sun began to set, I decided to take a deep breath and confront whatever was up there. I climbed the stairs, each creak of the wood unnerving me. I pushed the attic door open, half expecting something to leap out at me. The shadows danced in the dim light, and the floor was cluttered with old boxes and dust. "I just want to talk," I called out, my voice shaking. Silence followed. Then, I heard a soft, sad humming. It was hauntingly beautiful, drawing me closer to the corner. I stepped forward, and the humming stopped abruptly. I scanned the room, searching for the source. That S when I saw it. A small, antique music box sitting on a dusty shelf. I approached cautiously. It was intricately carved, with faded colors and delicate details. I reached out to touch it, but before I could, the thumping resumed, louder and more insistent. I jumped back, heart racing again, but I couldn't tear my eyes away from the music box. Just as I was about to grab it and leave, the humming restarted, filling the air with its eerie tune. I felt a sense of urgency wrapped around the melody, pulling at my chest. I picked up the music box despite my fear. It felt warm in my hands. The moment I did, the attic lights flickered, then went out completely. Everything around me plunged into darkness. My heart raced as I fumbled to find the door. There was a whisper, soft yet clear, trailing through the dark. "Play with us." I burst out of the attic, slamming the door behind me. I leaned against it, breathing heavily. My heart thundered in my ears. I had stumbled into something I didn't understand. Then came the thought that made my blood run cold. What if playing with them was the only way to make it stop? I spent the night tossing and turning, contemplating the music box and the whispers. The thought of playing with them haunted me. What could that even mean? I drifted in and out of sleep, each time jolted awake by phantom laughter that echoed in my mind. The next day felt heavier. I needed answers. I decided to visit the town library. Maybe there were records about the houses in the area. After a quick breakfast, I grabbed my bag and made my way there. The library smelled like old paper and dust. I walked over to the history section and started scanning shelves. I found a few books about the town's founding, but nothing about spirits or ghosts. I flipped through pages, hoping to stumble upon some clue. Looking for something specific? A voice broke through my concentration. I turned to see an elderly man, glasses perched on his nose and a knowing smile on his face. "Yeah, I guess you could say that," I replied, trying to sound casual. "Just curious about the history here." He nodded, his expression shifting slightly. "You must be new to town. A lot of speculation and stories float around, especially about some of the old houses." I hesitated, sensing there was more he wanted to say. "Like what?" The man leaned in closer, lowering his voice. "There are tales about children who used to live here, sad stories. Some say they still haunt these old homes, hoping to be remembered." My stomach twisted. Children, lost, Tragic accidents, illnesses. They say if you listen closely, you can hear them. But some say they just want to play. He gave a slight shake of his head, as if dismissing the notion. "Just stories, though," he added quickly. I thanked him and left the library, the air outside bright but heavy. His words echoed in my mind. What had really happened in this town? That night, curiosity got the better of me. I sat in my living room, the music box on the coffee table. I had been careful not to touch it after my last encounter, but now I felt drawn to it. I took a deep breath and decided to open it. As the lid lifted, a haunting melody began to play, filling the room with its enchanting notes. My heart raced with both fear and intrigue. I didn't know if I should feel comforted or terrified. Then, a soft giggle broke through the melody, a sound I recognized all too well. "Play with us," the whisper floated through the air again, drifting around me like a ghostly breeze. I slammed the box shut, trying to calm myself. This wasn't normal. Just as I was about to put the box away, a loud thump sounded from the attic again. It sent dread coursing through me. The whispers were getting more intense, as if demanding that I take action. Before I could talk myself out of it, I climbed the stairs. I knew I was stepping into the unknown. As I reached the attic door, The whispers grew louder, layering over each other, pleading. "Play with us, come play." Then I saw it, a flicker of movement in the corner. My breath caught in my throat. Someone was there. As I stepped closer, I finally understood. Whatever this was, it wanted me to engage. But I was also investing in the scary notion that it wasn't just playful laughter, it was something much darker. I took a deep breath, ready to face whatever awaited me in that dimly lit attic. I slowly pushed the attic door open, the hinges squeaking as if protesting my intrusion. The dim light barely illuminated the space, casting shadows in every corner. I squinted, trying to make sense of what I saw. Dust motes danced in the slivers of moonlight filtering through the small window. "Hello?" I called out, my voice barely above a whisper. Nothing but silence answered back. The urge to turn and run crept up my spine, but curiosity held me in place. Then, a soft giggle echoed again, this time crystal clear. It seemed to come from my left. I turned, and for a split second, I thought I saw a shape dart behind an old trunk. I stepped further inside, cautious and alert. My heart pounded like a drum, matching the rhythm of the whispers in my mind. "Who's there?" I asked, forcing more strength into my voice. The giggle erupted again, louder, more insistent, inviting. I scanned the room, trying to find the source but only finding forgotten toys and cobwebs. A porcelain doll sat on a shelf, its eyes glimmering in the dark. I shuddered, feeling a chill creep up my arms. Was it just a doll or something more? The whispers shifted to something that felt like a call. "Play. Come play with us." Against my better judgment, I approached the trunk, my hands trembling. It was a dusty old item, small enough to hold memories. I lifted the lid slowly, and a musty smell wafted out. Inside, I found a collection of old toys, a teddy bear with one eye, a marionette, and blocks with letters scratched on them. I picked up the teddy bear, its fur matted and frayed. "What do you want from me?" I murmured. The giggles crescendoed, filling the attic like a haunting chant. Suddenly, the temperature dropped. It felt as if a cold breeze swept through me, and I shivered uncontrollably. "This is insane," I muttered, glancing over my shoulder, paranoia creeping back. That S when I saw it. A shadow moved, not just flickering but materializing right before my eyes. A figure stood there, small and ethereal, wearing clothes that looked like they belonged to another time. It gazed at me with wide, luminous eyes that sparkled with mischief. "Play with us," it whispered, reaching out a tiny hand. I stumbled back, heart racing. This was no longer an innocent game. The light flickered, and the doll's eyes seemed to follow me as I backed away. I turned on my heel and sprinted for the attic door, clambering down the stairs. I locked the attic door behind me, my breath coming in shallow gasps. I needed to sort this out, to understand what was happening. Was there some tragic history lingering in my new home? I couldn't shake the feeling that I had opened a door meant to stay closed. In my heart, I knew that this was only the beginning. If the whispers wanted something from me, I had to figure out what it was before it was too late. Tomorrow, I'd dig deeper into the history, the stories, and maybe, just maybe, the lives of those lost children. As I settled on the couch, the music box on the table glimmered ominously. My eyes lingered on it, and I wondered if I could resist its call. But deep down, I knew my nights of rest were over. The shadows weren't finished with me yet. The next morning, I woke up with my heart still racing. The vision of that small figure loomed over me, casting a shadow over the sunlight streaming through my window. I bolted upright, wondering if I had imagined it all. But the frayed teddy bear sat on my nightstand as a grim reminder. Determined to uncover the truth, I decided to visit the local library. Maybe the town had records of the house, its previous owners, or any strange occurrences. As I drove through the sleepy streets, a sense of unease settled in. Everyone seemed to gaze at me with a mix of curiosity and pity, like they knew something I didn't. Inside the library, the musty smell of old books enveloped me. I approached the front desk where an elderly woman with glasses perched on the tip of her nose looked up. "Can I help you?" she asked, her voice warm yet cautious. "I just moved into the Stevens house," I said, trying to sound casual. I was wondering if you had any information about it? A flicker of recognition crossed her face. Then her smile faded. Most people steer clear of that place, she said slowly. I felt a chill race down my spine. It's been empty for years. You might want to leave it be. I pressed on. Why is that? She sighed heavily, her expression darkening. There were children who lived there. They disappeared. Disappeared? My heart thudded in my chest as I searched her face for more detail. Just vanished without a trace. The house was abandoned soon after, she replied, her voice dropping to a whisper, almost like she was afraid to say it out loud. I felt a pull in my gut. This was what I had sensed. Do you know what happened to them? I asked, desperate for answers. She shook her head. No one knows. Some say they still play in the house, calling for someone to join them. As I left the library, her words echoed in my mind. Disappeared. The giggles from the attic replayed in my head, louder and clearer. Back at home, I steeled myself. I had to confront whatever was haunting the attic. But first, I needed to check on the music box. It had captivated me since I found it, and right now it felt like the only connection I had to whatever was happening. As I opened its lid, a soft, haunting tune began to play. It was beautiful yet unsettling, resonating with the whispers I could still hear in the back of my mind. I tilted it slightly, and a small piece of paper fluttered out. I picked it up, and a chill shot through me as I read the words. Find us suddenly. The room grew cold. The shadows cast by the evening light twisted, forming shapes that felt alive. The giggles returned, now sounding just above my shoulder, almost like a whisper in my ear. I turned, expecting to see the child from last night, but there was nothing. Then everything went dark. The lights flickered and went out completely. My heart raced as I fumbled for my phone. Light spilled around me as I turned it on, revealing the sudden chill and the presence that lingered in the air. I needed to know what was happening. I had to find out who the children were and why they were calling for me before it was too late. My mind raced with thoughts of the local history and the mystery of the house. It felt like I was being pulled back to the attic, drawn by something I still didn't understand. And in that darkness, I felt an overwhelming sense of urgency. I had to go back. I climbed the stairs to the attic, each step creaking under my weight. The air grew colder as I approached the door. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up. I hesitated for a moment, taking a deep breath, before pushing it open. The attic was dark, the only light coming from the beams of my phone. Dust particles danced in the narrow beam, and cobwebs stretched like ghostly tendrils across the corners. It felt like a time capsule, untouched since the children had lived here. I scanned the room, searching for anything that might give me a clue. My gaze fell on the patch of floor where I had seen the shadow of the child. I stepped closer, heart pounding. Beneath a pile of old quilts and forgotten toys, I noticed something glinting. I reached down and uncovered a small, rusted key. What do you unlock? I whispered to myself, a mix of excitement and dread coursing through me. Just then, I heard a soft fluttering sound. My blood ran cold. I turned my head to see a small, broken window at the far end of the attic. As I approached, I noticed a piece of paper stuck between the window frame and the wall. It was worn and yellowed, as if it had been there for years. I pulled it out, slowly unfurling it. My heart sank as I read the words scribbled in faded ink. The door to the past waits behind the wall. The wall? My mind raced with possibilities. What did that mean? I stepped back, scanning the entire room once more. The walls seemed ordinary, yet something felt off. My fidgeting fingers brushed against the edge of the wall, and that when I felt it a slight give. Curiosity overwhelmed my fear. I pressed harder, and to my shock, a section of the wall creaked open, revealing a hidden compartment. My breath caught in my throat as I stared down into the darkness of the small space. Find us, the music box had said. My heart pounded as I leaned closer, expecting to see more notes or perhaps the children themselves. Instead, I saw colorful marbles scattered across the bottom. They glowed faintly, colors shifting in the dark. I reached in, and the moment my fingers touched the marbles, a rush of cold air blasted through the attic. The The door swung shut behind me with a deafening bang. I stumbled back, panic clawing at my throat. In the dim light, the marbles began to roll on their own, clacking against one another like they were alive, forming a circle in front of me. And then, in the center of that circle, the shadows twisted again. I could see the silhouette of a child smaller than what I had imagined. It was just an outline, but I felt its gaze on me, waiting. "Help us," the whisper floated through the air, wrapping around my heart like a vice. Something pushed me to take another step closer. I had to know what it wanted. I would find out what had happened to the children. I needed to know why they were calling for me. But as I reached for the marbles, a sudden jolt of energy shot through the room, and the shadows shifted menacingly. Then the laughter returned, louder this time, echoing in my mind. I stood frozen, realizing I was no longer alone. I felt the heaviness of the air as it thickened around me. The laughter faded, but the echo lingered, merging with the shadows that danced at the corners of the attic. My heart raced, and for a moment, I wanted to retreat, to push the wall back into place and pretend I hadn't discovered it. But I couldn't look away from the childish silhouette in the swirling darkness, despite my fear. "Help us," the whisper was clearer now, more urgent. I wanted to understand. I stepped back into the circle of marbles, my eyes locked onto the shadow. I had to know who it was. The moment I thought that, the marbles began to swirl faster, the colors blending into a whirlpool of light. I stumbled backward, nearly tripping over my own feet. "What do you want?" I shouted, frustration mixing with fear. "Why me?" In response, the marbles glowed bright white for a heartbeat, and then darkness fell again. I felt a cold hand grip my ankle. I gasped and looked down, but saw nothing, just wooden floorboards that creaked under my weight. "Find us," came the voice again, now echoing from different corners of the room, overlapping with whispers that sounded like the laughter of children. I scanned the attic frantically, my breath shallow. "I can't help you if you don't tell me what's wrong." My voice trembled, barely above a whisper. I needed to break this cycle, whatever it was. Just then, the wall at my back creaked. I swung around, heart racing, and saw that the hidden compartment had closed. Panic coursed through me as I pounded my fist against the piece of wood, but it was solid. In that moment of desperation, my mind kicked into gear. The key. I still had it in my pocket. I fumbled for it, heart climbing into my throat. What could it unlock? The door? Or was there something else hidden above or below? The thought sent a wave of hope through me. I refused to give in to fear. With determination, I focused on the shadows again. "Is there another door? Somewhere I can find you?" The circle of marbles began to roll again, clacking in sync, creating a rhythm that drew me in. In sudden clarity, it all felt connected, like a riddle I was slowly unraveling. Then, with a flicker of light, the wall opened again. This time, it revealed not just space, but also words etched directly into the wall, faint but visible in the dim light. I strained to read them. "In the shadows you'll find what's lost." That was it. I rushed toward the wall, pulse racing. But then I heard an ominous creaking from the staircase below. I froze. Someone was coming up. I turned back to the marbles, now still, watching me as if waiting for my decision. My thoughts were a jumble. Should I hide? Should I confront whoever was coming? The shadows dashed around me like they were alive, and I knew one thing for certain. Whatever was happening here, I was in deeper than I ever intended. I turned toward the staircase, hearing footsteps grow nearer. I had to decide quickly. Would I stay to find out what was behind the wall or risk confronting whatever or whoever was coming my way? I pressed my back against the wall, clutching the key tightly in my palm. The footsteps creaked closer, and my heart raced with each echo. The attic felt smaller, the shadows more oppressive. I glanced at the marbles again, hoping for a sign, but they remained motionless. "Stay quiet," I whispered to myself, forcing my breath to even out. Maybe if I stood still, whoever was coming would simply pass by. The footsteps paused momentarily, and I held my breath, every muscle in my body tensed. Then, the creaking resumed, this time with a soft shuffle as if someone was hesitating. I thought about the words etched in the wall. In the shadows you'll find what's lost. Whatever the children needed, it had to be connected to this moment. I couldn't let that golden opportunity slip away. Just as the footsteps reached the attic door, I crouched behind a box filled with old clothes. I could see a sliver of light from the crack of the door. The light flickered as the door opened, and I mentally braced myself. A figure stepped into the attic, silhouetted against the light. I couldn't quite make out who it was, but they weren't moving in the way I expected. They hesitated at the entrance, glancing around the room. I felt my pulse quicken with panic. "Hello?" The voice called out. It was low and deep, echoing off the walls. The figure stepped further in, and I could see dark clothing and an unfamiliar face. My mind raced to connect the pieces. Was it someone from the neighborhood? Anyone here? The person glanced at the marbles, then back toward the shadows, as if searching for something. I held my breath, hoping they wouldn't spot me. That's when I noticed something odd. Behind the figure, a faint glimmer. I squinted, trying to make sense of it. A small light was flickering just beyond the box I was hiding behind. It seemed almost alive, pulsing softly like a heartbeat. My instincts urged me closer, but I couldn't risk being seen. As I shifted slightly to get a better look, the box I was hiding behind tipped over, sending old clothes sprawling across the floor. The noise echoed like thunder in the confined space. The figure whipped around, eyes wide with surprise. "Who's there?" they demanded, striding toward me. I felt panic surge. I had to act fast. I had no plan, but fear propelled me. With a sudden rush, I darted toward the wall, the key in my hand glinting momentarily in the flickering light. My heart raced as I saw an outline of a small door, another hidden compartment similar to the first. Without thinking, I rushed at it, key poised to fit. But the figure seized my wrist. "Stop!" they shouted, their grip like iron. I stared into their startled eyes, a mix of confusion and concern, or was it fear? My breath caught in my throat as I realized how unprepared I was for this encounter. "Let me go," I gasped, struggling to break free. But just as the words left my lips, a loud crash echoed from downstairs. What was that? The figure's eyes darted toward the attic entrance, their grip loosening. I felt a flare of hope. Whatever had just happened below might give me a chance. I had to make a choice now. Would I try to escape, or would I push forward and unlock the secrets behind the wall? I felt the moment hang in the air. The figure's grip on my wrist slackened, and I seized my chance. I yanked my arm away and rushed toward the small door, my heart pounding. In my haste, I fumbled with the key, nearly dropping it. But somehow, I got it to fit into the lock just as the figure turned back toward me, their eyes wide. "Wait," they shouted, but I twisted the key. It clicked, and the door swung open, revealing a dark, narrow space. I didn't have time to think twice. I dropped inside just as the figure lunged after me. My foot slipped on something soft, a pile of dust or fabric. I stumbled into the darkness, barely managing to catch myself. The hidden nook felt like a cavern, and the only sound was my ragged breathing. I could see nothing. My hands grazed the walls, and I pushed forward blindly, praying I wasn't trapped. Just then, something shifted behind me. I turned quickly, my heart racing. The faint flicker of light from the attic highlighted the outline of the entrance, but it was fading. The figure was still there. I could barely make out their silhouette, but I sensed they were trying to reach for me. "Please," they said, their voice softer now, edged with urgency. "I won't hurt you. You need to trust me." I hesitated, torn between fear and curiosity. Why was I hiding from someone who seemed just as scared? Why should I? I called back, trying to keep the tremor from my voice. "Because I think I can help." The moment the crash echoed, I sensed an urgency pushing me into action. I took a deep breath, prepared to accept what lay ahead. But my heart still raced, thumping against my chest like a frantic drum. I could feel the presence behind me, the figure in the shadows waiting for me to make a decision. "Are you ready?" The voice was firm yet reassuring. I turned to the figure, searching for some hint of familiarity, something to ground me in the chaos. This place is alive. If we don't confront what lingers here, we might lose it all or worse, lose ourselves, they said. I stepped back into the narrow space, the weight of the moment settling on me. What do we do? I asked again, needing clarity amid the bewildering uncertainty. There was an unyielding energy in the air, like the anticipation before a storm. Follow me. They turned, slipping deeper into the dark. Hesitantly, I followed, feeling the walls close in around us. The hidden compartment twisted and turned, leading us further into the house, the air thick with history and mystery. I could still faintly hear the laughter, the joy mingled with desperation floating through the darkness. Tell me about the children, I urged, my voice barely a whisper in the confined space. Why are we helping them? They need to be remembered, the figure replied, urgency clear in their tone. They were lost, trapped in a moment of time. If we can show them that someone cares, they can finally be at peace. Suddenly, we came upon another small door, less obvious than the first. An innate sense told me this was a key part of the mystery. I glanced at the figure and nodded. They pressed against the surface and it creaked open, revealing an attic I had never seen before, one that felt suspended in time. A shimmer enveloped the space, a reflection of what looked like a playground setting, swaying slightly and glimmering like a mirage. I could see shadows of children playing on swings, their laughter ringing out like wind chimes carried by the breeze. Look, I gasped, feeling hope flutter in my chest like a hesitant bird. Can they see us? I think so, the figure murmured, stepping closer to the threshold of the doorframe. But we need to play our part. What part? I turned to them, confusion swirling in my mind. How can we help them? Join them, they replied, their tone catching a whisper of resolve. We have to relive this moment with them, acknowledging their lives. What do you mean, exactly? My brows knitted together, hesitation creeping in again. This felt heavy, a burden I wasn't sure I was ready to carry. But just then, a soft, melodic laughter wrapped around my senses, beckoning. The children turned, their faces full of expectation, inviting me to join them in their timeless game. Before I realized what was happening, I found myself stepping forward, drawn into their domain. The warmth of their ghostly presence filled the space, swaddling me in a comforting embrace. As I crossed the threshold, my worries melted away. The moment twisted, melding laughter with echoes of forgotten memories. I felt the joy of childhood return, freeing my spirit from the bindings of reality. I couldn't resist. I was pulled into the unison of their game, a delicate dance on the edge of the living and the lost. Can you remember? The figure urged from behind me, grounding me in the collision of light and shadow. I spun around, still enveloped in the laughter, and nodded, confused but convinced. I remember, I called out, embracing the warmth of the memory that came rushing forward. Fragments of joy, the feeling of running through fields, the simple delight of swinging from a tree, the power of play, layers upon layers of life burst to life in my mind. I felt connected not only to the children but also to the forgotten whispers that echoed throughout the house. But just then, an ominous chill swept through the air. The playful atmosphere shifted, turning darker. A shadow loomed closer, an inkling of something sinister branch out from the innocence. I turned to the figure beside me as the jarring contrast hit me. No, I shouted, feeling the cold touch of fear claw at my throat. We can't let them take us. We want tea, they declared, grasping my shoulders as if to anchor me. We have to remember their stories. Remind them they are not forgotten. The walls began to tremble, the laughter morphing into cries of frustration and longing, an angry calling that reverberated through the air. The shadows swirled, threatening my grasp on this reality, tugging me back toward darkness. But I couldn't retreat. I had come too far. Together, I shouted, gripping the figure's hands. I focused on the children, grounding myself in their joy, their memories that needed to be honored. We remember you. You lived, you played. The air shifted, the shadows momentarily retracting as if they were reacting to my words. I felt a surge of energy, a connection that made the laughter swell again. The shadows began to dissipate, chasing the figures of the children away, until what remained was hope, a shimmering light breaking through the despair. As the ghosts of the past danced around us, I became acutely aware of my own vulnerability against the backdrop of their joy. We were entwined between two worlds, caught between time and memory. But then, I felt a pull, stronger than before, tugging at my very being. A force that coaxed me to relinquish my hold, to let it all sink back into darkness. "No," I shouted once more. "This isn't over. You are not lost." In that instant, the light burst into brilliance, enveloping the darkness. As laughter transformed into radiant echoes of newfound joy, the weight began to lift, and I felt lighter. The shadows waned and faded. But even as my heart soared, a haunting whisper echoed in my mind, a reminder that while I had touched their essence, not all was resolved. My gaze landed on the small door, a fleeting shadow still dancing there. Questions lingered, promising I would never fully understand what had happened, but I also knew some mysteries were meant to remain hidden. As the air cleared and the laughter faded, I heard the familiar giggles gently slipping away like whispers in the wind. I stood hand in hand with the figure, both of us gazing into the space where the shadows had once danced. And though I had escaped the immediate danger, I understood now that the past wasn't fully laid to rest. It was simply waiting, hidden among the memories alive in the house, wrapped in an enigma that remained just beyond my grasp.